While internet drama is far from the focus of this channel, I would be lying if I said I didn't occasionally follow along and listen as people blow the smallest things out of proportion. A tweet here, a stupid comment there, that's all it takes for cancel culture to come for you, but in the case of MovieBob Chipman, I can't think of a more deserving person, frankly. This man, who has systematically embraced every single social justice bullshit claim and acted like a complete douche about it, is yet again feeling the scorn of the internet after being exposed for being a creep and a cretin. We're talking about someone who will openly defend softcore child porn from being peddled on Netflix because someone who voted for Trump said it was bad, and as we all know, Orange Man bad. This is an extremely unlikable person, someone who's so far gone that when it comes to the SJW mindset, that's all he considers before even the most basic ideas of common sense or morality. But he didn't start out this way, and that's what I want to discuss. I remember finding Bob's channel on YouTube way back in the heady medieval times of the internet that we call Spring 2008. There was this guy called the GameOverthinker, and he had about a dozen videos in a series where he talked about gaming, and honestly, they were pretty good. Here's the first minute of his very first video as the GameOverthinker from back in February 2008. Give it a listen and see what you think.
I thought about starting this off with some sort of introduction, but honestly, you don't care. Many thanks if you were pretending to care anyway, but we both know you don't. Your first question is not, who is this guy, but rather what sets this guy apart from every other fucking game culture video rant guy on the web. And rightly so. So we'll cut to the chase. So, like a lot of gamers, I'm currently in the midst of having my world rocked by Suda51's No More Heroes, the first fully awesome third-party title for the Nintendo Wii, and as far as I'm concerned, both an early contender for the top games of a waitlist, and a welcome fellow to Portal and Bioshock in the pantheon of wonderful new blood ideas for this console generation. And yes, you heard me, you half-cocked message board fuckheads. The Wii is part of this console generation, even though it's not giving you a base tan with bloom lighting and forcing you to go plasma in order to derive the proper enjoyment from otherwise rote rental-worthy rehashes, alright? It's out at the same time as the 360 and PS3, it's competing in the same fucking marketplace, cut, print, end of story. Yes, Sony and Microsoft's respective HD-ready next-gen behemoths are getting ass-raped all over the sales charts by an underpowered retro oddity that isn't at all ashamed to admit it's a toy at the end of the day. This guy is still the gold standard, this guy is still God, this will be the greatest thing to happen to gaming since the invention of jiggle physics, so can we please stop it with this tired shit about GameCubes and duct tape and get the fuck over it.
Yeah, doesn't seem too bad, does it? Especially considering the introduction I just gave him. You can watch the rest linked in the description if you like. Look what we have here though. He's humble enough to realise he's just another voice in the crowd, but confident enough to still give his opinion straight. He immediately jumps into talking about a game and criticising the gatekeeping backlash that we got back then, at least, for not being a real console, which I remember being quite a big thing back then. Good arguments, well made. At the very least, this guy has a personality, and he's clearly not someone who's just going to go along with the popular opinion. A promising YouTuber. Especially for 2008. Do I think this video is amazing? Fuck no. It's extremely biased towards Nintendo. Bob clearly has a massive case of nostalgia blindness when it comes to the NES, describing things like the original Bionic Commando as a masterpiece, and he's got this vague, wistful wish for return to creativity that has apparently been lost, yet offers nothing substantive as to what this means, while he finds fault with things for no clear reason. He's not, however, especially wrong in all of his assessments either. The original PlayStation almost certainly did push gaming trends towards realism and away from cartoonish absurdism due to it becoming more mainstream. But that's just a market trend, and making out like it was anything more than that is frankly disingenuous. That's not the point though. The point is, this video is pretty decent for what it is. The issue of creativity in gaming is always a good discussion if nothing else, and he was clear in his position even if I disagree with the specifics of his content. Plus, he managed to do this whole thing in a reasonably small amount of time without adding stupid skits, something he sadly lost the ability to do as time went on. His second video is something even more special, I think. I don't think you would ever expect this video from the modern MovieBob, a guy who self-identifies as a feminist, actively pushes extremist third-wave feminism and social justice rhetoric, and is known to openly promote Anita Sarkeesian, though that's possibly against her will if his creepy stalking of Lindsay Ellis earlier this month is any indicator. This video is eye-opening, and for that reason I strongly suggest you go into the description and actually watch it. I provided a link below. I was going to post it in here in full, but 10 minutes of Bob Chipman, I'm not going to force that on anyone. But go ahead and watch it. Pause here. I'm sure you're intelligent enough to find the pause button. I'll wait. Well, I'm going to presume that you've watched the video now. And yes, believe it or not, that was MovieBob being critical of feminism and defending video games from the accusations of sexism that he himself would later wholeheartedly champion when supporting Anita Sarkeesian and her ilk when it became time to attack gaming once again for political gain. It's a great episode, with a good point to make and plenty of reason behind it. It's very clear now, after 2 videos, that with Bob we are dealing with a weeaboo and a Nintendo fanboy who's probably got a few issues. But ultimately, he has some good things to say, and he was presenting his ideas well enough. There was a reason I subscribed to this guy. His third episode covers perceptions of what isn't childish in gaming, as he talks about Kirby. The fourth episode was about the changing demographics of gaming, and it's a pretty good video. I won't cover every video he made like this, but the trend of decent if subjectively contentious videos by Bob did continue for a while. His 8th video was about race in video games, and it wasn't just an SJW diatribe. His 11th video was about the lack of kids games on the PS3 and 360, which was a very true issue at the time. One particularly good breakdown that he did, in my opinion, is videos 21 and 22, where he discusses the problems with the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise and what Sega should do to revitalise it. It's possibly one of his best, and the audio quality is vastly improved by this point, so I do recommend watching it. So why do I bring up this guy's previous work? Simple. Because prior to 2010, Bob Chipman was a geeky guy with some good ideas, who I would have firmly placed on our side of the argument. He had liberal ideas, and there was a hint that he was fairly left-wing leaning, but he wasn't an extremist. Prior to 2010, being left-wing meant something far different than it means today. Sure, he was a crazy weeaboo and a fanboy, but he wasn't so far gone that you couldn't have an intelligent conversation with him. At least it didn't seem so. He had some of those embarrassing traits that many geeks or nerds tended to have back in the day, largely due to being socially ostracised and bullied by society, but those issues could be worked on. He could always grow up. Sadly, he didn't grow up. He festered and became consumed by his neuroses. Bob Chipman would go on to slide further and further up the insane SJW scale. His positions got more and more offensive and ridiculous. He would stop being critical of feminism and taking a nuanced middle ground where he acknowledged some of the issues of sexism that did exist in gaming, but also defended the media from being scapegoated, and instead joined what, and let's be fair to them, was the fucking enemy. Liars and con artists who don't care about the medium of video games except as a means to perpetuate their propaganda. There's a reason Gamergate was necessary, because video games as a medium, as well as their journalistic coverage, had some really rotten elements, and Bob was in a prime position to give some good takes on that issue. But he was more concerned with being a model feminist ally, as if he thought giving up his principles and ideals just so he could get close to shrill feminist women would maybe get him laid. It was painfully sad. MovieBob is the worst example of a beta male simp you can see. A pathetic simpering fool who will abandon his principles, his ideals and his integrity for the chance to have a selfie with a female feminist commentator where he pulls a thumbs up so he can claim he's friends with them online and delude himself into thinking that one day they might just touch his cock, when in actual fact these women are icons amongst the left-wing iconoclasts, and he's the fat guy who smells faintly of Cheez-Its and BO that they tolerate because he props up their bullshit and likely funds their crap on Patreon and or OnlyFans, depending on the style of manipulation they prefer. Well done, Bob. You're the primo example of the incel simp. An embarrassment to yourself and a figure of fun to everyone else who can now point and laugh at you. Fired from the Escapist for literally posting pro-eugenics posts and actively defending softcore child porn online from criticism, you'd think it would be hard to fall much lower, but what Lindsay Ellis showed in one tweet, just one tweet, shows just how pathetic Bob truly is and how much he's hated even by his own side. As a pathetic, simpering, weeaboo feminist, Bob is in no position to give any opinion to anyone right now. Anything he says has zero value. But some of his old opinions, the opinions he had a decade ago, were pretty good. And if you strip out the bullshit, the Japan worship, the fanboyism, you get something quite worthwhile. That thing is passion. That passion shouldn't die with him. It should live on. Even if Bob himself has become a joke, the things he said a decade ago were not that bad. That's what I'm hoping to provide, what I'm hoping to preserve. Passion for gaming. Will I be political? Hell yes I will. As Jim Sterling said in a recent video, link in the description, to be non-political when discussing video games is practically impossible now. And though Jim has also become a raging SJW in recent years, unlike Bob, he does at least still make decent videos and make important points about the games industry on a regular basis. Sadly, there appears to be a trend where all the major gaming commentators of the early 2000s are succumbing to the need to pander to SJW talking points now. Whether it's Bob Chipman, Jim Sterling, Jesse Cox, or even Joe Vargas, they're all falling into this trend of making everything an excuse to call people racists, sexists, or bigots, and frankly, I'm sick of this Marxist bullshit. I hope to be a counter to this trend. I want to be the voice that has been lost and actually talk about games again. The voice that Jim Sterling and Bob Chipman used to be. What they used to represent before they became enamoured by the sickening social justice cause. If that sounds interesting to you, great. I hope you'll stick around and look forward to future videos. Until then, thanks for watching.